So I've mentioned to some of you about this camera kit I was going to try in the car, and rather than let you know afterwards how I got on, I thought I'd record the whole process. You can see for yourselves. So it's a 360 degree around view system, right? The idea is that you have cameras in the front and the back and underneath at the bottom of each wing mirror, and each one takes like a fisheye view, and then once you've calibrated it, the unit knows how much to stretch each image, how to splice them all together, and you'll get like a virtual view from above the car all around the car as you're reversing and parking and stuff. I mean, the idea is nothing new. I first started seeing this on some high-end cars about 10 years ago. It may be around before that, but it's always been a very expensive option on the high-end cars, and then more recently it's available on the kind of the family level cars, but it's still expensive. Like on my Toyota, I think it was about £1,000 for this option at the time. It was very expensive because they needed to upgrade the whole nav unit and upgrade all the cameras and everything, and it was just way too much. So this kit I got from China. Came in two models. Both models had the same camera resolution, but one model had the recording function, which is this one, and then the other one doesn't have the recording function. And the difference in price was about 15 quid, so I thought I might as well just buy the recording option. And this kit was available from quite a few sellers, but I brought this from Amazon Japan, so I bought it through a local reseller, because if it didn't work or if it came broken and in pieces, I wanted to be able to send it back. So I paid a bit extra for that. So I paid 13,000 yen, which is about what, 85 quid, maybe 90 quid, something like that. So not much. So let's look what comes in the kit. This is the unit itself. It's quite small. It's about the size of maybe 2 old school iPods stacked on top of each other, about the same size as that. And it's got just these 2 connectors here, the main connector and this other connector, and apart from that it's got a little LED here, which I think must be a power light, because the infrared receiver is on the cable I'll show you in a minute, so this must be power. And that's about it. Not much else to say. It feels fairly solid and fairly sturdy. This is the mains cable. So this is the big connector which goes in the back, and then this splits into all the connectors. So first of all we have the power. So we have plus, minus and accessory, like most other car accessories. And we have the camera out, so this is the main camera out. Also with the camera out is the trigger line, which we'll come back to and explain in a minute. And apart from that, there's the 4 connectors for the 4 cameras, and they're all labelled. I don't know if it's going to come out. This one says front. I don't know if I get the focus. This one says front. The yellow one says rear. Red is left, and blue is right. And all the extension cables, they're all colour coded as well. So it's quite nicely done. This is the this is a jack input, and this is for the infrared receiver. So you can mount this infrared receiver, tuck the box away somewhere, and then mount this somewhere convenient, maybe on the front console, you know, underneath the driver's wheel where you can access it. The other connectors on here is finally this USB input, and this is where you put the USB thumb drive, flash drive for the recording. So that's about it for this main cable. The next cable that came with it for the second connector here is the shock sensor. So this is the shock sensor cable. So you know, the idea is you mount this somewhere, and if the car gets hit or shocked while you're away, this will trigger and it will start recording and hopefully catch something. And then this is adjustable in sensitivity. You have a dial here for plus and minus. Not sure if that's going to come out, if I can get the light. You can see here. So I'll have a play with that. And that's basically it for what's connected to the main box. Each extension cable is connected with these plugs. I don't know what the real name for these plugs are. In the manual it keeps referring to them as BMW plugs. Same kind of plugs that you get on some of the in-car TVs, especially the headsets that you feed down through the back of the seats. Build quality wise, it's actually pretty good. I'm quite impressed. It's way better than the kits I got for the headrest TVs. These are all very solidly put on. These cables are of a decent thickness. Even the thin cables that you have to connect the options to are pre-soldered. So it's already a lot better than some of the other kits I've got. For the cameras themselves, two cameras like this are the side cameras. All of the cameras have their own color-coded connector. So this is the right, the blue one. Yeah, this is the right one. So these ones go in the wing mirrors, and then to mount them in the wing mirrors you'll need to drill holes in the bottom of the wing mirrors, and the kit even comes with this bit of exactly the right diameter. So it really does have everything you need. To mount the side cameras, we have a choice. These are the grommets that will fit the camera into the wing mirror, and you can see it's got this, if I can get it on camera, this ridge here. See this little ridge, right? And that's what will grip around the camera, around the hole, around the camera. And we have two options. This is the flat one. If I hold it over here, you can see the flat one. And also we have an angled one. So hold this one. You see this one's at an angle. So of course, you know, coming out the bottom of the mirror, it'll be this way up. So once you've made the hole and then you're messing around with it, you can, you know, if your mirror wasn't flat, you could angle it like that and have it pointing flat, or you could have it pointing flat. I've got quite big mirrors, so I'll probably be using these flat ones. I've got nice big flat bottoms on my mirrors. As the side cameras, this is the rear camera, and the front camera is the same as this. And then it came also with a couple of these mounting plates and these sticky plates and some screws to mount the cameras in. I probably won't be using those. I've got some nice parts of the plastic trim already. I'm gonna screw it directly into, and the remote control for changing the settings, and possibly changing the views if you wanted while it was active. There's a few options on the installation. Each of the cameras, let's look at this side one here. So each of the cameras also has a trigger cable. Okay, so what you could do if you wanted is connect the trigger cable to the light associated with that camera. So because this is the right one, you'd tap this off the right indicator. And the idea is that once the trigger cable receives a signal from that light, so this, the right indicator in this case, so once I started indicating right, then the unit knows, okay, now I'm indicating right, and it can switch the view to the right-hand view on its own. I think they've got a picture of it in here somewhere. Oh yeah, so here we go. So this is if I was indicating right. It would switch the view to that camera rather than just show the full overhead view, so that I'd be able to see any, I don't know, kids, bikes, pedestrians or obstacles as I'm turning right, same for turning left. But I don't really want that. I don't think I'd like that. So I'm not going to bother connecting these trigger cables. I'm not sure actually. I might do when I'm there just for fun, but I'm not sure if I'll turn that function on or not. And because of that, that means that you'd have to be able to connect this trigger cable to your nav unit. So you'd have to, connect all of the trigger cables together. Normally, especially on the aftermarket nav, this trigger cable would be connected to your reverse light. Okay, so as soon as you put it into reverse, then the nav unit knows you're in reverse and it switches to the rear camera. Now, most of the nav units I've worked with, I think, which is actually 4, only one of them has been generic, with generic connectors, and the other 3, they all have their own custom connectors for everything, and you just have the single line coming out for the trigger cable to connect to the reverse light. So I think it's probably going to be a case of how easy it is to install. If it's easy to get to, I might hook these other trigger cables up all together. If I can't, then I'm just going to leave my nav unit as it is, because it's already got the rear camera, and then somehow find which of the cables or connectors are my rear camera, cut the end of this, and then join those two together, so I'm no longer using my rear camera, which I'm going to take off the car anyway, and just automatically show this in 360 view whenever I'm reversing. That's the basic idea. If I can find the trigger cable on the back of my nav, and I can fake it, then I might try connecting all of these to see how it is. Okay, that's the basic idea. So now I'll start connecting things in the car and running cables, and then once I have it all up and running, we'll see how it goes. There's a couple of steps you'll have to do. Once you've got the cameras in place and working, then you have to calibrate them. So there'll be a very fisheye lens at first, and the idea is you've got to calibrate it so it knows how much to stretch them out and join together. These checkerboard patterns, actually, you can buy online, but there's no point because they give you the dimensions of the checkerboard pattern somewhere here. Where is it? Somewhere in here I saw it. Here we go. They give you the actual dimensions of the checkerboard pattern, and it's quite big. So I was just gonna draw some lines on some spare bits of cardboard and then quickly paint it in, and make my own one on the cheap. Okay, so that's basically all the parts. I'll start connecting things up and then turn the camera back on when I got something to show.